We're
Hey,
good.
what is up, hunters, executive recruiters, beautiful people? And yes, I do mean you, lovely
Me?
audience.
Me?
Well, I did see your nipple before the show, and I must say it was a stunning piece of work.
He did. I decided to make DSP's day. And when we were in the pre-show in the green room, I had my shirt off in the beginning, and the shock effect did work as projected.
It woke me up. Let's put it that way. But
My
because I did have
nipples are
link,
like caffeine.
they're like caffeine. They're like a quick hit of crack, actually. But anyway, I'm not sure if that was the right analogy to use. This
No,
is David Stephen Patterson. You probably know me as DSP. This is my lovely co-host and brother from another mother, Neil Lebovitz. Welcome to today's show. And as you can see, we have no guests, and that is probably because no one loves us anymore. Or it could also mean that DSP forgot to book a guest this week because it was my turn to book a guest. I don't know. One of the
it
two.
could be, but who's to know?
Who is to know? And we will not say. But that said, we have a great show planned for you. It's not going to be a super long show, 20, 30 minutes, but we're going to maybe answer some questions, talk about just in general training, business development, marketing, whatever. We're going to kind of just wing it and see what happens.
I've got nothing.
You got nothing. Oh, man. This is an exciting show already. Woo! All right. So that's it. Let's do this. If anybody here wants to throw a question in the chat, feel free to. Oh, somebody here said Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah,
I
Lynn
did.
wants to see my nipples, but Lynn and I message all the time. And Lynn, you've never asked to see any pictures. I'm more than happy to, though I'm not going to pull an Anthony Weiner. And if I do, I cover my face. I don't show, you know what I mean? But that said, hey, I did want to say we released our amazing book that you've been kind enough to let me post in your group, Staffing by the Book. If you're dabbling in staffing or you want to dabble in staffing, and frankly, you should, this book's amazing. It took us months to write. It's 24 pages. It's a real ebook. It's not one of those, let's put that on Word and get it out. It's www Back Office Staffing Solutions. That's my company. BackOfficeStaffingSolutions.com/staffing. All right. Great book. Everyone out there get it. That's all.
Why did you say staffing?
Because people don't know how to write things if you don't like staffing. I guess this group would know it. But like when I call my domain, it's a bad name. I don't know why I picked. I mean, the name of the company is Back Office Staffing Solutions, but my website should have been like Back Office Now, or it didn't have to match, you know? So I have this crazy long URL, which is a nightmare. Like when I call tech support, it's like, oh my God, it's like a 10-minute, what? Back office, like an office, staffing, and they don't know that word. And then people, I don't know. It's like the boss, Jeff. Jeff knows.
You know what you can do? Use a short link. So for me, so for a lot of my longer links, I use a link shortener. So I'll have go.digitaleditor.com and /scaling, whatever it is, and you use a link shortener. That's what I do.
Well, but I actually created the new URL that forwards with a name and just actually do a redirection, and it's Back Office Now goes to my site also, but we don't publicize that. It's Back Office Staffing Solutions, but I should almost just change the URL at some point because it really is a nightmare, and you don't need to match it for recruiters out there. So many companies don't. They'll have a name and their website will be something else.
100%. Well, for me, for example, the SAP Recruiter, the Kinetic Group is the name of the company, but I just created what's called the SAP Recruiter just because that was the branding that I wanted to put out there. In fact, for the longest time, I ran my site was for the marketing was davidstephenpatterson.com because I'm an egotistical jerk. But then I changed it to the Digital Headhunter because I wanted to have something that matched the company. For the longest time, I didn't have that. But that said, good plug. And since you are plugging your thing, I'm going to plug mine. So as you folks probably know, I've been running training here in the Headhunter or in the Hurt group now for the last 2 days. I've had 3 showings so far of my sales and marketing masterclass. I did an hour training, and this one was unplanned on how to how to move from contingency to retainers, or at least engaged. I did that yesterday, and I've got another showing on a training at 3 p.m. in the group today replay the sales and marketing masterclass. But with that said, if you want to skip all that into the front of the line and actually work with me on accelerator or tactical in building up a sales and marketing ecosystem, go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/assessment. And by the way, do you want to hear a funny story about this little assessment that happened to me a couple of days ago?
I do, David. I do. And so does the group.
So does the group. So one thing I talk about when it comes to your sales meetings, I talk about a thing called a status delta. In essence, it's basically your posturing, your positioning. Do they view you as an authority, right? Or are you a little puppy dog? It's kind of like a police officer, plain clothes, shows up to your door. They're going to show you their badge, because if they don't, you probably won't take them seriously, right? You prove to me you're a cop. Well, there's the badge, right? And so I always advise in like sales meetings, there are some ways that you can talk about your accolades in a way to help build that authority on a call. Well, one of the ways that you do that as well prior to a call is when they book a call, you send maybe a questionnaire, or maybe send some marketing collateral or whatever it is, right? Well, for us, our assessments, we want to make sure, one, if somebody's qualified, and also two, the pricing may be different depending upon what their needs are and what they're looking for. So I had somebody submit an assessment yesterday, and she was super rude. She was every question, her answer was, I don't know why I'm answering this. I just want a price. One of the questions was, what are your 3 biggest challenges? And she said, answering these questions. Well, the interesting thing is that allows me to then say, well, you're probably not somebody I want to work with, and I don't have to waste an hour with you demoing our process. But you get that sometimes. And so for a lot of recruiters, when you're out there, you're pitching your services and soliciting business, you'll get folks, hiring managers, for example, they'll reach out to you and they'll say, what are your rates? What's your price? They're doing the same thing. They're trying to price shop you, and they're trying, and one of the worst things you could do, just like with me, with her, if she just want to get a price, well, I'm not going to do that until you get on the phone, because I need to figure out what you need.
But dude, no one does that, I mean, it's, and you need to. I'm amazed, and I'm pricing. I have 2 things I wanted to talk about in the show, but on pricing, I'm amazed at how many people start at 25%. My fees are 25%. And I think they figure that it's a reasonable fee, which it is. But they're not starting at 30. And whether they don't believe that the negotiation game or perceived value is important, you need to start at 30%, all of you, or 35 even, which is what I had my people do. 35, and then go down to your 25. And this isn't a negotiation session today that I'm talking about. It's just what you're talking about, David. Like, there are some deals that, listen, they're working with all these other recruiters. You're coming in late in the game. They're not going to agree to see your people directly or just take they're 30% fees, or the rock bottom you can do is 25 or whatever it is. And there's others where you're going to get the exclusive, you're going to do this. So when people have published fees, that blows my mind. And the vast majority of recruiters, from I seeing all the posts, do that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it really puts you in a bad position. It puts you in a pricing position. One of the things I learned that really made a difference for me was realizing that whenever somebody books a call, reaches out to you, or what have you, they're in price seeking. They're in option seeking mode. They're looking for options. So they're like, hey, here's a price for that. Here's a price for that. Here's a price for that. And so sales calls meant to, one, build your status delta, your authority, et cetera, but also to and diagnose and all that kind of jazz. But ultimately, what you're looking to do is eliminate options, eliminate, and you can't do that just by reaching out and say, well, here's my price, because they'll say, well, they're charging 20%, they're charging 10%, whatever, and you've got no opportunity to sell them on why that's a bad move going with a 10% firm or 15% firm, right?
No, the 10% firms. But the stuff that they train in some of these groups on Facebook is a joke. And even if 10%'s your fee, again, start at 35. I don't want to, again, it's not negotiations per se, although I'll give a tip on that. But yeah, but David, so you do it via a paper questionnaire as opposed to a live call questionnaire?
Initially, yeah. So for digital marketing service, yes. But for the search firm, I wouldn't necessarily say you should do that. But the nature of what I do here, yes, I'll have an assessment that they fill out ahead of time, and they don't fill it out, and we're not going to book a call. Sorry. And so allows us to, again, qualify,
Yeah.
put in a better position, except we know a little bit about them. So that's the reason why we do it. But yeah, so as a firm though, think about as you're reaching out, what can you do to better position yourself? And it may not be an assessment. Again, it may not be the right move necessarily for if you're doing biz dev, but let's say somebody books a call with you, or you get them in a conversation or what have you, they book a call. What can you do right from that moment to build your status to that individual? So when you meet, you're on a peer level, even if they're a 30-year VP and you're a 2-year recruiter. So, marketing collateral, maybe using a scheduling funnel, maybe here's some information on us. Here's our offer sheet. Here is our solution dossier. And on our call, we'll be talking about this and this and this and this. And in fact, one of those little things I like to do is at the beginning of the call, say, hey, Bob, appreciate you taking the time. And before I get into the meat of what we want to talk about, let me first tell you about us, who we are, what we do. Because if I don't, this really won't make sense. I want to make sure that you have the right context. That's just an excuse. I do that because then it gives a reason why I spend the next 2 minutes saying, so here's what we do. We have 20 years experience doing this, we specialize in that. And it gives the reason to, in essence, flash your badge at the beginning of the call. And then you can go
and nobody this is what that every recruiter's got to understand, because it's true to every industry and every product or service. No one likes the cheap provider, the inexpensive provider. They might want to look at it, especially in contingency where they have nothing to lose, but it's proven that your value is perceived a lot by your pricing, right? So think about that. Your value is perceived by doing what David's talking about. So, and there's tons of studies on it. I mean, I've talked about this before in other shows, nonstop. These wine tests. Wine seems to be a great one because it's a frigging grape that's been fermented, and it could go from $2 a bottle to $400 a bottle. And if people are told it's an expensive brand, they like the wine a lot better. Blind taste test.
I do the same thing when I go buy a bottle of wine. I mean, I don't spend a lot of money, but I'd rather buy the $15 bottle than
always
the bottle.
Unless you know the brand. And it's what's that one that came out years ago that is inexpensive and quite good? I forget that one. And if you know the brand, then you're you know what, for $4.99,
like that,
for $4.99, but yeah, you don't. So you already start flashing that badge by establishing yourself that you're a value add. Now, it doesn't mean that some people won't walk away and you have all these things. Hey, do me a favor, put Jeff Johnson's comment on about 28% fees, which how often, I mean, I think Jeff dead on. You just so rarely see that. And his comment, 30 to 25%, the rookie mistake is not a 5% discount. Do you know how many recruiters get that math wrong, David? That's something I when I was making my training rounds, when I did that full time, I would always, on a negotiation or on fees, I would throw that out to a group of 300 people, and I would ask for the discount. And then I would put numbers up on the PowerPoint and have people raise their hands. Vast majority said it's a 5% discount. And the answer to this one is it's what, 16.67% discount is what that is. It's 5/30ths, right? It's a huge discount. And so if someone wants a discounted fee, why do you even go from 30% to 25? Or 27 is a good number, but offer them a 10%, offer them a 5% discount. 5% on 30%, right? Do the math on it. It's taking it down to what, 27 and a half. I mean, it's taking it down to 1.5 points, taking it down to 28 and a half. Right. So, and you could put that on the invoice, less 10% discount. So here, my fees on the invoice, I'll knock off 20% of the invoice value, or 15% or 10%. Right. I mean, so I think that's a great point.
It is. And also there's something else about that when you negotiate these fees. So there's different ways to skin a cat. You can either say, look, we don't negotiate. This is the fee that we charge everybody, which is certainly valid. And you could do that. Or tie your fee to the level of service, right? So, for example, we're familiar with we buy software. You have silver package, gold package, platinum package, and I don't want silver, but platinum makes me go with the gold package. And you can tie your service what you offer depending upon the fee, or maybe the way it's paid. Do you do a year guarantee on engaged, or 90-day or a 30-day, whatever on say?
That's right. And you have all sorts of packages, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because look at like when you go to the movies, and I mean, or when you used to go to the movies pre ridiculous lockdown, right? But the popcorn's a classic example, right? And in their case, they use you to actually upgrade there. They make your choices perfectly planned so that you're a friggin' idiot if you buy the 20% package, right? Like you want a small, no one buys the medium. The medium is there to get you to realize the amazing value that you get in the jumbo popcorn with the unlimited refills. That's why it's there.
Well, and think of the guarantee. So when people say, I talk about a 1-year guarantee and replacement, not refund. Now people sit
Yellowtail, pass. It's Yellowtail, the wine. Thank you.
But when it comes to the guarantee, so here's the way I look at it. For years and years and years and years and years, I had the argument down when somebody asked for a long guarantee, because I used to offer 30-day and that was it. I'd say, look, once they're hired, we're out. We don't have any control over the work promised versus work given, the color of the cubicle, the commute, so we're not an insurance company. We're not going to insure your hire. Now, I looking back and be more mature about it instead of trying to be like always right. I realized, especially when it came to Apple, realizing that when you go buy an when you buy an iPhone, you get Apple Care for extra couple $100. If you're drunk in a bar and you walk out and you drop that phone, you shatter it, it's not Apple's fault. But within the warranty period, what do? You go in and they say they happily replace it. No problem. And that's one reason why they could jack that price up so much for an iPhone, because they're selling peace of mind. And one thing I realized is that if I want to get to an engagement, let's say, and they're not used to that, used to paying contingency, but they're frustrated because maybe they know that a mishire usually happens like around that 6-7 month mark. That's kind of when they know it's not going to work out, maybe the average time. But if their service providers are doing 90-day guarantees, I say, hey, you can pay the same and have a guarantee it's not going to do you any good, or pay an engagement fee, so I'm more assured of making the placement. You get a 1 year, going to cost you the exact same. Now you're within the warranty period. And of course, part of that service is also, we do some work on the back end to make sure that we don't actually have to, that you don't have to actually activate that warranty, And so when you start thinking less about being right, but more about what is best for the customer, and because think about it, what does the customer want? Not to make a hire. They want somebody that's going to be successful in 2 years or what have you. So what can we do to affect that and kind of punch through just making the placement? Part of that could be the guarantee. And again, you may not do that, but think about how you can offer these things.
Yeah, and what's more important to them? And I'm not being funny with an alternative question, but what's more important to them? The fee or this peace of mind or the guarantee? And again, well, both. Okay. If you want the guarantee, I don't do it for the reasons you mentioned. Like, this is what it is. But if that's really an issue, you have this stuff, I'll do the guarantee. The fees for that, though, are 30% or 27%, not 25%. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's what every other industry does. It's what I do at Back Office Staffing Solutions. If someone doesn't want any risk on their receivables, right? They want me to take it on. They want us to take it on. And if the client doesn't pay, you're off the hook. That's great. We can do it. It costs you 2% more. Which for us is 20% or 20% more of our fee. There's a premium for that, as it should be. I mean, we're not just going to take so why not with the guarantee? Exactly. I know some people that do that, and I think it's brilliant when they do that on the guarantee. That's a time to say, okay, let's revisit this conversation we just had about the fee then.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, so it's really about getting rid of this mentality of being right, and thinking more about how can I make this a better experience for the customer, or a better solution for them, and then of course charge accordingly. That's how you get raving fan customers. That's how you get people that want to use the service. It's how you go from being a resume broker to an actual advisor, and you're a trusted advisor, as they say, right? And that's how you do it. So always be thinking what's right for the customer, and then from a cost benefit analysis, how can I make sure that it's not hurting me in the pocketbook? And what you'll find oftentimes is that by not worrying about being right, you actually will make more money in the long term and have happier clients. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about who's right. They care about being taken care of. Again, I drop my iPhone when I'm drunk at a bar. Apple takes care of it, and it's not their fault. It makes me feel good, and it justifies me spending $1,000+ for an iPhone every year.
Yes,
Justifies
peace
that.
of mind has a price to it, as it should. Peace of mind is critical. And I do want to mention this because it's still, anytime we talk about this stuff, when you're marrying in pricing, if you're not doing retained search like you talked about, or you don't have these other packs, you have to do it. I don't care. Well, I'll do retain next year. You need to offer it to have that alternative, to make your medium popcorn, in this case, the one that you want them to buy, right? So you need to, everyone out there needs to offer that. And when I always want to remind people on contingency search, no one's paying your quote. You don't have a higher fee. There's no higher fee in contingency. Yes, they are. They're at 20%, and that's why I'm going to do 25, or I'm going to come down to 20. No, the only way they're going to pay you and your competitor 20, the only way they'll pay you 30 is if they want to. Now, those are the words I always train people. If they want to, right? Think about it. They're going to see that person with a price tag of 20, that wine, that whatever it is. They're going to interview yours with a price tag of 30. The only way at the end of the day they're going to come back and say, David, we're hiring your person, is they know it comes with a price tag of X, but they decided they're worth it. I want to pay it. If they don't want to, they're not going to. It's only a win-win scenario. You as the recruiter are doing all the work. You're taking on all the risk, which is what you need to explain to them. We take on the risk as a recruiter because we're going to do all this work knowing that our price tag is higher, and they clearly need to be in your mind something you're going to want, those words again, to do. And you got to get good at that concept of really explaining that, because that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. And also it comes down to, that's why you can offer a longer guarantee for an engage, because if you go contingency, then there's a certain cost to that guarantee. If you work an engage, I'm more assured of a search. I'm not going to work for free, and there's a certain cost to that. Am I willing to incur that cost of a longer guarantee, for example, or other things involved, maybe personality tests, whatever you want to include in the deal. But it's important that you think about that, because one, clients want options, and secondly, I can't tell you how many companies I've seen that they'll tell you our policy is no retain. Our policy is 20%. Our policy is this, and they break policy all the time. They do it all the time. There's no such thing as a policy that can't be broken. And half the time, it's not even a real policy. They're just using that to strong arm you.
Because it works. It works. It works also for recruiters that use that to their advantage. And that's something that's big in negotiations that I would train on too. Let them know, sorry, I can't go down. Our policy is minimum of 25%. And it's amazing how often that works. Right?
It is. In fact, I want to hear a really cool trick. I used to do this, but I haven't in years. But I learned this from, I'm not sure they're in business anymore, but there is a construction search firm called Lattice & Associates in St. Louis. And I knew a guy who worked there. I believe Steve Finkel started at Lattice & Associates, actually, from my understanding, in St. Louis. But anyway, so this construction search firm, and in their training, this guy showed me, he's like, one of their techniques was, they called it the low and slow. So when you're taking your job order, and then at the end, when you talk fees, what they would have you do is then you go low and slow. Our fee for this search is, and you would kind of lay everything out, right? But then instead of agreeing to the search, one thing you would say is, but I can't guarantee that we can take the search on right now. We happen to have a staff allocation meeting tomorrow morning, or maybe later today, whatever. I'm going to present this search there, and if you're approved, that we can get you on board. And so what it did is it put the power in the hands of the recruiter, the perceived power. And granted, your staff allocation meeting might be you going to lunch with your buddy or whatever, and then coming back, and then when you leave a message, you say, hey, congratulations, you've been approved. We're able to slot you in, and it becomes more of an attractive option. Like, they've been approved, they've been selected. I've not used this in years, but think about doing that. Like, how can you try to make using you as a search firm, more of a higher end, maybe luxury that net, it's building scarcity, right? So staff allocation
And all these things are critical to do. I want to share a nugget that is a story you should be telling on all of your calls when you're not getting your 35% fee. And there's no other contingency business that exists like. Could you think of any, David? Because everyone gets this wrong too. When I ask them in a group, what's another business like ours that does contingency? Throw out the ones that you think recruiters will answer that question to. Not yours, but when I ask people, what are other contingency businesses? Name some that you think come out in my seminars. People say,
what's that? I guess maybe it's like the mortgage brokers, I suppose.
Right, mortgage brokers. They'll say real estate. They'll say legal, right? Contingency, and use the legal ones. They're not like ours. Nobody they are. Legal will do a deal on contingency. You only have to pay them if they win for you. Yes, you still have to select one law firm to represent you, not 5. Mm-hmm. So our business is like the law firm, but you get to pick 3 attorneys to represent your injury case. Could you imagine? Hey, I'm Joe Bottom Feeder, 6-figure recruiter. And, I'm sorry, didn't mean to throw that out there. I'm Joe Injury, 10% spam fees, and all right, I want to use you because I'd love to pay 10%. And they get a settlement for $200,000. You also get to work with 25% DSP law firm, and you get a $300,000 settlement. Or you get a $150,000 settlement, or a $400,000 settlement, or they get to work with a 30% firm and they get you $1 million. Would you not? You want to pay 30% to that law firm that just got you $1 million, don't you? Because you're getting a $300,000. You're getting a $700,000 payout.
Exactly. And on top of that, and you think about these law firms, I'm frozen here for a second. Let me fix that. But you look at these law firms as well. Not everybody's work contingency. They're some of the best law firms out there are still going to work on a retained basis, right? So if you want the firm with the biggest track and the case studies and the best, you may have to still pay a retainer to get them on board.
They tell you, they listen to your case, and then they say, well, listen, we won't do that case on contingency. We need to do that one on retained. Or they'll say, we can go either way on this one. Here's our fee structure if it's hourly and retainer or whatever. And here's what our fees will be if we go contingency. And that's exactly what a recruiter should do. Exactly what a recruiter should do. And again, just back to that legal example, use that for your clients because, again, you're offering them the opportunity on a personal injury case to use you and see if you get a higher settlement. And that's the only way they're going to pay so what they're focusing on is, well, one lawyer is 10%, one's 25, one's 35 or 30. But so what? You don't have to choose one lawyer. Like, use me, and here's why you want to. Here's my expertise. Here's all these things that DSP just talked about, blah, blah, blah. Here, and you're already establishing whatever. You only pay me 30% as a lawyer if you want to. You look at the settlements. You interview the candidates. You look at what the jury comes back with, which the jury in this case are the hiring managers. And then compare my fee, add that into the entire thing. And then I can get into, David, there are people that there's vast salary range differences. The differences between, would you rather pay a recruiter 20% of a $200,000 salary or pay someone 25% of $150,000 salary? And that happens, salaries are all different. So what if I get you someone, hypothetically, I'm just saying, if they're a little cheaper, that's already going to take care of the fee difference. The point is you don't know until you interview the people and the jury comes back and you look at your options. We're just presenting options, right? And recruiters don't think like that enough.
Yeah, and think about this as well, and with your attorney example, it's a great example because also think about this beyond the price thing, beyond whether you're doing a contingency or retained, based on you say your track record, right? If you don't have a track record, you may not be able to get retained right away. So get a track record and then do it. I mean, it's a process. There's no magic script. But even with that, so let's say you're interviewing five attorneys, and you and every attorney basically when you meet with them starts pitching you. We're the best. We do this. We do that. Da, da, da. They're doing the dance, but they don't know anything about you. So that how much confidence does that give you, as opposed to the other attorney says, well, actually, I'm not sure if I can work with you or not. We're very good at what we do, not right in every situation.
Totally.
Let's dig in, find out what's going on, and if I can help, I'll show you exactly how. We'll put up a game plan. If I can't, I'll get you pointed in the right direction. Fair enough. Now you just got a little more trust. Like, okay, this makes more sense. And most recruiters, what they do, they just regurgitate their pitch, their unique selling proposition, and their fee with no knowledge of what the client wants or needs.
No, you need to change. And again, what I suggest is use the legal analogies, including the one David just talked about. Use that on your calls. Use it. Let them know, listen, what we're doing right now is the same deal if you had a case with a lawyer. Do you want to go to a lawyer? Or you might want to, but certainly you want them to hear your case. You want them to get the information, and they'll present options to you. We work the same way. Right. And then you could segue into the fee negotiation part. Give them a different frame of reference so they get out of that. And the problem in most lawyers know this. Like, a lawyer is not going to take on no lawyer is going to take on a contingency case if they don't have an excellent chance of winning it. Why is that different from a recruiter? You should not take on a contingency case unless you have an excellent chance of winning it. If they don't, you're going retainer with them. They're not going to spend their time chasing after maybe money that's not so likely that they're going to make. So if it's just an exclusive, contingency. If it's just you and one other, okay, contingency. If they're going to see your people and not just insist on a resume, contingency. If they're not, here's why we got to go this route. Or if we go contingency, if I'm going to do it, then it's 30%. And then it's the story like lawyers. So you need to get this in your vernacular and in the way that you sell it, different from how you do it currently.
Exactly. And also keep thinking about this, so I always think what's right for the customer. They may not need engage and retain. They potentially actually might be the better solution for them. You don't know until you dig in. And I'd rather tell a prospect, look, again, I always say the same thing. My line always is, we're very good at what we do. We're not right in every situation. Let's dig in a little bit, find out what's working, what's not working.
It's perfect.
If I can help, we'll lay out a game plan. How it's going to work. If not, I get you pointed in the right direction.
But that's not a line, David. It's right. It's not a line. It's what you need to do, and you need to explain to them why you need to do it. And 100%. The value, the badge, David's right there. That line is such a not line, and because it's so good, you flash the badge when you do that.
You do flash the badge because you don't need their business, right? You're there for them, and if you're not a fit, you'll point them in the right direction. That takes the pressure off. They're more likely to open up, and then you can create a real solution that makes sense for them and charge appropriately. And
David, every job you work takes you away from another job you're not working.
100%. And the nature of this makes it very easy for folks like us or you watching this to be able to go to a prospect and say things like, well, the reason why you're using 5 recruiters and you don't hear from 2 and you get spotty resumes from 1 to 2 here and there, and they're not really screened very well, or the reason why the recruiter always represents the candidate, but you're the one paying the bill, that doesn't work either. It's because of the structure. To your average recruiter, you're not a client, you are a KPI. They need to fill 1 position a month, and they do 1 out of 10. They don't care if it's you. They would like it to be you, but hey, 1 out of 10 they're going to fill. Might be yours, might be not. And if this is a really critical position, it's important to educate them on how things really work. So when you dig in, you present your real solution, you can actually point out, here's how we're going to go from the recruiter representing the candidate to the recruiter representing you, and being honest about it by working this way. You'll be able to solve this pain by working this way, and here's what it's going to cost. But you're not going to get that if all you're doing is, hey, we're the best, we can do this, here's our fee, and just trying to get a signed fee.
But again, this isn't a sale. I mean, it is a sales technique, but it's not a game. It's how you have to do your business. And the industry average still for placements has always been in the upper teens for your placement ratio, which is nuts. And great recruiters will do 25, and some of them do like 40, 50. If you want to have a high ratio, you need to walk away from a lot of business. And to your point, would you rather have a 10% rate and spend it's not just math, the time you're spending on this, you're much better off walking away from this business or working really hard to do it and doing it every single call to get those, even if you make the same money on only 2 deals, Much better off working hard to just get those 2 deals than working on 6. Imagine how much easier your life is. Why don't recruiters do that, David? As a rule.
As a rule, because I think a lot of times they don't have the they don't know how to. In fact, I talked about this in yesterday's training where I talked about getting engagements and retainers. A lot of the advice recruiters tend to get is know your worth. Really believe in your offer. Just don't say no to anything less than retain.
But from a negotiation perspective, and it's so much more than negotiation, right? It's not negotiation. That's what's right.
I think what happens is a lot of recruiters are just happy to get the job, and because they don't want to really sell. Because getting a contingency job order, you're not selling jack shit. You're getting the opportunity to work on the job, so is everybody else. But to sell them on something at a higher level, that takes some sales skill and
every job, an opportunity cost, as Jeff said. Every job you work on takes away money from another job.
Well, also think about this. Think about the opportunity cost for the client, right? So and when you think about it like this, right? When you look at working exclusively with me, pay me a $5,000 or $10,000 upfront, so I'm going to go deep on the search. Now there is an opportunity cost to the prospect involved with going with that. Maybe you're an unproven commodity, so that's kind of a risk for them, right? So when people are starting to go after engage or retain, one thing you have to think about is you have to kind of work your way up to it. Get case studies, get testimonials. Because if I go into a meeting and I can say, I've got case study, case study, case study, case study, case study, now the opportunity cost for the prospect goes way down and it just makes sense. Like it makes sense. They're going to spend a lot more money and time not going with you. If you're brand new and you've got no proof that what you do works, then maybe you need to go in a little bit lower or kind of work your way up there. And so what recruiters need to do in addition to that, start working, getting case studies, start getting testimonials, using real client names, not this Bob R, manufacturing VP Midwest bullshit. But start getting real case studies, bringing those into your meetings, putting out your clients, because it'll reduce that opportunity cost for your client to work with you, right? Because that's what's going on in their head. Well, it's not just you.
What I challenge everyone to do, and our closing for the show, I know you have to run, is come up with what we just talked about on this show. Take a real introspective look at how you do it. Take the nuggets that you do that resonate with you, that you've already been doing, and continue. And the things that resonated that you're not doing, add that. Rethink your whole position to it. And why I keep saying it's not negotiations. It's the reason I said that they only paid if they want to, but we're not talking about negotiations in this session per se. This is all about how your solutions are being positioned. Yes, it's going to impact your negotiations and also things that you walk away from.
Well, also, it's going to make you more confident. And it's going to make you more confident going to these meetings. It's going to make you more confident even cold call. It just, because when you have something that's really, so you can't wait to tell somebody about it, as opposed to when you're selling an ass in a seat and that's all they see. That's why you don't want a cold call, because it becomes
a commodity if you sell it that way. But that's a definition of a commodity.
And
people they view me as a commodity. We're a commodity. Our industry is a commodity. No, you are.
Yeah. If you're in a bar or club and you see let's say you're single and you see a pretty girl and you're nervous to walk up as a guy, well, that might be the case. But what if you were George Clooney? Oh, you got no problem, because you're George Clooney. You know that you got a lot of value there. Well, so it's like sharpening the saw, as they say, right? If you take the time to work on your offer, get a sales process, let's get some case studies from old clients, let's get all this stuff together so you've got something really, really strong, then go out into market and get out there. That's much more valuable than just taking a script you saw from a trainer and making 100 calls a day, but you've never sharpened your saw. There's no value in working with you. Just have a
and you know what I'm thinking, David? If someone wants to apply this concept to the temporary side of the business, the staffing side of the business, then you have to download Staffing by the Book, the Bible of the staffing and recruiting industry, at www.backofficestaffingsolutions.com/staffing. And that's my show for today.
Unfortunately, I don't have a caption for that, but I do have a caption for this. And if you want to work with me to sales and marketing system, include all I talked about here and more, our stuff is I think I know is the most advanced you'll see out there in the recruiting world. Go to the headhunter.com/assessment. You can also check out a free training, which the slug on this one is, instead of assessment, is training. Okay, you can go there as well and watch the training and then book a call. Either way, we'll help you get to that point where what you have is so valuable that you can't wait to get out there and show people, because they're going to be blown away. So anyway, that is my show. That's my plug.
All right, David, always a pleasure, my brother.
Mike, pleasure as well. Thanks for being here, folks. I appreciate the time. Sorry about some of the technical difficulties we had at the beginning. But with that said, I really enjoy the shows we do, just the two of us.
I do too. And I'm thinking in front of the group. I'm thinking for our format, we actually keep the guests in the green room. We do 15 minutes alone, because we always have so many great things that we hear people talk about on the groups that we can talk about on any topic and help them. And then we bring the guest in. Then we introduce you. I think we do that.
It's actually a really good idea. Yeah,
and we let them know. Watch the show, just like you do on Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson, how old am I? I just said Johnny Carson.
I used to watch that now as a kid. Now that you're
I'm an old man. I'm 57 years old. Don't I look good for 57?
You look great for 70. Not a day under 70. Not a day.
All right, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too, man. Love all you guys. Thanks, everybody watching this. DSP signing out. We are Neil Lubovitz. Thank you for being on. Thank you for watching. And with that said, peace.